And now we invite you to journey with us through space and time to the distant future for another strange story from
the galaxy of the Baboos.
And for our latest weird adventure, we must move through a time warp to the year 6128. A superior race of monkeys has taken over the universe, and as a hot sun burns down on the barren landscape, we see one of the creatures loping into his dwelling place.
Well, thank heaven that's done, Margaret.
Did you have trouble getting our pet human to the kennel, Harold?
Of course I had trouble. Always have trouble with that confounded human. Trying to drive with him climbing all over the car and licking my face. It's a wonder I didn't have an accident.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess I should have gone along, but I was hoping he'd behave himself.
What?
I said I should have gone along, but I just have so much packing for our vacation yet to do.
That didn't sound like what you said the first time.
Well, it's not important.
Sometimes I think getting ready for a vacation is more trouble than it's worth. Just get out on the highway, bumper to bumper with a million other monkeys.
Well, I hope you won't get so upset this year every time you get caught behind a big truck.
That's the rude gorillas who drive those things that bug me. They ought to be hanging from a tree by their tails.
Harold, a gorilla doesn't have a tail any more than you do. I just wish you weren't so prejudiced against everybody who's not a baboon.
What?
I said you're prejudiced. You should understand that gorillas are apes, just like we are.
That didn't sound like what you said the first time.
Well, it's the same thing.
What?
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Harold, will you stop saying what and go upstairs and finish packing?
That didn't sound like what you said the first time.
Well, never mind what I said the first time. My stars, we'll never make it to the city before dark if we don't get going. You always say you hate to drive at night.
Well, it's those humans darting across the road in the dark that bother me. I don't know why their owners can't keep them fenced up.
Well, I doubt if the ones you see on the road belong to anybody. They aren't wearing collars or license tags.
What?
They aren't domestic. They're just running wild.
That didn't sound like what you said the first time.
And so we journey back across the endless reaches of space and time to our own world as we know it. But soon, we'll be making another fantastic voyage into the future, when we'll hear Harold say,
$24 for this room that doesn't even have color television.
That's in the next strange episode of
The Galaxy of the Baboos.
As a public service paid for by the National Foundation to Improve Things, we invite you now to spend another educational session with the idol of the nation's youngsters, Mr. Science. And as we look in on the laboratory today, we see that little Jimmy Schwab is just arriving to watch Mr. Science perform his latest fascinating experiment.
Well, hello there, Jimmy. You're right on time to watch me perform my latest fascinating experiment.
Gosh, all hemlock, Mr. Science. What fascinating experiment are you going to perform today?
Well, I'm sure you'll remember from last time we were discussing Archimedes' principle, and I promised to demonstrate it for you.
Holy cow, Mr. Science. I don't remember anything about that at all.
Well, that's all right, Jimmy.
The doctors have told my parents that I'll probably never be able to remember anything for as long as a week.
Well, Archimedes' principle only takes a moment to review. It states that a body immersed in water will only sink until it has displaced the amount of liquid that's equal to its own mass and density. Now do you understand, Jimmy?
Gee, Willikers, I don't think so. And even if I do, I can't remember it for a week.
Well, I'm sure after you've observed today's experiment, it'll be fixed more firmly in your mind. Now, to prove Archimedes' principle, we first must fill this bucket with liquid.
Crime and Nettles, Mr. Science, that liquid looks exactly like the stuff we get in our bathtub at home when we turn on the faucet.
Well, that's just could be, Jimmy, because the bucket now contains ordinary household water.
Household water? Great day in the morning. Wait till I tell the kids at school I've seen some of that.
Now, let's try to keep yourself under control, son. I know this is a big thrill for you, but the best part is still to come. Now, I'm going to toss this rock into the bucket of water, and you watch carefully what happens.
Holy Moses, Mr. Science, it went clear to the bottom underneath all the liquid.
Exactly. And do you know why?
Golly, no. I never expected that to happen.
Well, just remember what we said about Archimedes' principle. You see, the rock was heavier than the water, and that's why it sank in an effort to displace its own mass and density.
Great suffering catfish. It's like the wonders of the universe were unfolding before my very eyes.
Well, that's very well put, Jimmy. Now, to complete our experiment, I'll place this wooden toothpick in the same bucket of water.
Boy, oh boy, look at that. It's not sinking in an effort to displace its own mass and density. So Archimedes was wrong, huh?
No, not at all, Jimmy. You see, wood is lighter than water.
Even a whole tree full of it?
Yes, in proportion to its size. That's why wood always floats. And it's our way of proving by a simple experiment here in the laboratory that Archimedes' principle is correct.
Jiminy, gee, that was a wonderful experiment, Mr. Science. Can I toss this box into the bucket and see if it floats too?
No. Leave that alone. It contains the ingredients for next week's experiment. Don't touch it, boy.
But I only want to toss it in like this and
I'd
see
rather
if...
you...
Mr. Science has been brought to you as a public service, paid for by the National Foundation to Improve Things. Today's broadcast was the last in our current series. And now, the Intermountain Baby Food Cartel, the world's largest packager of mushed-up vegetables for your little one, presents another session of courtroom drama starring Lupis Bartlow, counselor at law. As our scene opens today, Lupis Bartlow is trying to gain acquittal for his lovely client, Marlo Binklow. Marlo stands accused of murdering his or her ne'er-do-well husband, Marlo Binklow. Lupis Bartlow remains convinced of her innocence. Still, the prosecution has built a strong case, and the outcome remains in doubt as Lupis Bartlow confers in the courtroom with his boyish associate, Todd Burklow.
I'm afraid the outcome of this case remains in doubt, Todd. I'm convinced of Marlo's innocence, but I can't prove that she was incapable of committing the crime unless I put her on the stand.
Well, it seems risky, Lupis. The prosecutor will certainly try to tear down her alibi on cross-examination.
Yes, but it won't do him any good. With Marlo's testimony, I can prove that she could never have killed her husband. Your Honor, the defense calls Marlo Binklow to the stand.
Marlo Binklow to the stand.
You swear to tell the truth, so help you?
Yes, I do.
Now, Mrs. Binklow, the prosecution is making the ridiculous charge that it was you who shot your husband with a large double-barrel shotgun on the night of November 14th. But isn't it true that you were actually visiting relatives in a distant city on that date?
Well, the city isn't terribly distant. I suppose I could easily have driven home and shot Harlow and then driven back before anybody missed me.
Yes, in theory, I suppose that might be possible. But, of course, your husband's guns were all in a locked case, and you didn't have the key.
Objection! That hasn't been established.
Overruled.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Apparently, my learned colleague is upset about that evidence, so let's clarify it for him, Mrs. Binklow. Isn't it true that you had no key to the case while your husband kept his guns?
Yes, that's true. Of course, the murder weapon was too large to fit into the case, so Harlow just kept it leaning against the wall in his den.
Very good. You've raised an important point there, Mrs. Binklow. You're a rather small woman, and yet you say the murder weapon was large and heavy. I doubt that you could even lift it.
Well, I used to pick it up to dust under it, if that's what you mean.
No, that's not what I mean, Mrs. Binklow. I'm speaking of a tiny person like yourself raising a large shotgun clear to her shoulder and then firing it.
Well, the jury would just have to make a guess on whether I could do that.
Not necessarily. I have here Exhibit A, which has been identified as the murder weapon. Now, Mrs. Binklow, I want you to step down here and try as hard as you can to lift this weapon to your shoulder.
You mean like this?
Yes, but you're having trouble holding it steady, even with both hands. Yet you'd need one hand free to pull the trigger.
Well, I've seen Harlow brace himself like this, and then that puts your trigger finger here, and then he,
Well, maybe it is remotely possible, but that doesn't mean it happened. Your Honor, no more witnesses. The defense rests.
And so once again, justice prevails, thanks to the shrewdness and the cunning of the experienced defense attorney. Join us again soon when the Intermountain Baby Food Cartel, the world's largest packager of mushed-up vegetables for your little one, will present more courtroom drama starring Lupis Bartlow, counselor at law. And now, the Monongahela Metal Foundry, maker of extra shiny steel ingots for home and office use, invites you to ride with the men of Squad Car 119.
My name's Sam Finch. Me and my partner, Ralph R. Kruger, Jr., we're the unsung heroes of the police force who ride a prowl car at night. Sometimes we go around corners, sometimes straight ahead. Either way, we keep on the lookout for trouble. The other evening, I just pulled a squad car over to the curb, shut off the engine, when my partner, Ralph R. Kruger, Jr., turned to me and said,
Why'd you pull over to the curb and shut off the engine, Sam?
kind of quiet tonight, so I thought we might catch a little nap before we have to check in with headquarters.
Gee, I can't sleep when it's this hot and humid, Sam. My shirt sticks to me, and I get too uncomfortable to doze off.
Yeah, well, why don't you just lean back and rest your eyes then, Ralph, Jr.?
No, that's no good. Leaning back just makes my shirt stick to the car seat, and that's even worse.
Yeah, that's too bad. I think I could really doze off if you'd just pipe down, Ralph R. Jr.
Sorry, Sam. I've never been able to relax in sticky clothes when it's hot and humid.
Yeah.
I don't even wear pajama tops until after Labor Day.
Yeah, well, when it's hot and humid like that.
Calling Car 119, Car 119. Investigate a man behaving suspiciously in the drugstore at Pico and Olympic. That's the drugstore at Pico and Olympic.
Ah, drugstore at Pico and Olympic, huh?
That's us, Sam. Let's roll.
Gee, look at that temperature gauge, Ralph R. Jr. It's almost up to boiling.
Must be a broken fan belt. I'd be willing to bet on it. Better turn off the engine and have a look, Sam.
Yeah. Maybe just registered hot because the water wasn't circulating while we were parked there.
No, I'd be willing to bet it's a broken fan belt. Careful now when you open the hood, Sam. The steam could come right up and hit you in the face.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to be boiling over. I'll lean in and check the fan belt.
Careful when you stick your head in there, Sam. You could bang it on the hood and get a nasty gash.
Yeah, fan belt's okay. Maybe we're just low on water.
Be careful if you plan to take off that radiator cap, Sam. Hot water could spill out all over your hands there.
Yeah, if it did, you could get a nasty burn.
Calling Car 119, Car 119. Disregard that call to investigate a man behaving suspiciously in the drugstore at Pico and Olympic. The case has been handled by the men of Squad Car 24. The suspect has been apprehended, booked, and brought to trial. In 1 minute, the results of that trial.
And while we wait to hear the outcome of today's exciting case, here's good news for you homemakers. You're well aware, I'm sure, that extra shiny steel ingots have been in short supply this season at your Monongahela Metal Foundry showroom. But now we're happy to say that supply is nearly caught up with the tremendous demand. Oh, you may still encounter a limit of 3 ingots to the customer in some scattered areas, but in most places, your Monongahela agent will be happy to sell you as many as you need to replace those old, worn-out ingots you've been forced to use during the shortage. So stock up today while there's a good selection.
The suspect arrested in that drugstore at Pico and Olympic was convicted on 5 counts of behaving suspiciously. Behaving suspiciously in a drugstore is punishable by a term in the state penitentiary of not less than 20 years or more than life.
And so another desperate criminal is brought to justice thanks to the unsung heroes of the police force, the men who ride the squad cars at night. As I'm sure most of you regular listeners know, we never shy away from controversy around here, and from time to time we like to keep you informed by giving our thoughtful opinions on some of the major issues of the day.
We feel it's our responsibility as prominent public figures and leading Americans to let you know what we think about things.
And so, at this time, we wish to present another in our continuing series, Bob and Ray Editorials.
We want to present our Bob and Ray editorial position right now on the number one issue facing our nation today. And, of course, that's the question of whether we should or should not dig up all the old broken sidewalks in our metropolitan areas and replace them with new ones.
To deliver this editorial, we've selected one of the leading authorities who agrees with our official Bob and Ray opinion on the subject. She is Mrs. Carlotta Weingraf, the chairperson of the group that calls itself SOS. Those initials, of course, stand for Save Old Sidewalks. So would you just go ahead and present your arguments, Ms. Weingraf?
Yes, thank you. My fellow Americans, as we approach the last quarter of the 20th century...
Excuse me just a moment, Ms. Weingraf. I think we forgot to mention that the opinions you're expressing represent your own views, which also carry the endorsement of the far-flung Bob and Ray organization. However, they do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this station or its employees or members of their families.
Nor are they necessarily the opinion of our sponsors or their advertising agencies or children born out of wedlock to those advertising agencies. I guess that takes care of everybody.
I think so. However, it should be mentioned that this radio station, which may fail to share our editorial opinion, broadcasts on a standard frequency assigned to it by the Federal Communications Commission.
But not necessarily by members of the families of that commission.
So now, presenting the Bob and Ray editorial stand, here again is Mrs. Weingraff.
Thank you. As we approach the last quarter of the 20th century, it should be remembered that many old sidewalks bear the footprints of dogs, cats, and even human beings who stepped in the cement while it was still wet. These footprints are historically significant because those who made them are no longer with us, for the most part. Therefore, let us ask ourselves the pertinent question: are cracked and broken sidewalks the price we must pay to have history at our feet?
Thank you, Mrs. Weingraff. You've been listening to another Bob and Ray editorial opinion on one of the controversial issues of our time. Speaking on behalf of the Bob and Ray organization, Mrs. Carlotta Weingraff, chairperson of the Committee to Save Old Sidewalks.
We recognize our responsibility to give qualified persons with opposing views an opportunity to respond to this editorial on the air. Therefore, if you hold an opposing view and consider yourself a qualified person, you may apply in writing to our office for equal time.
But please confine your letters of application to 25 words or less. Letters of more than 25 words will not be considered. The opinion of our judges is final. In case of ties, duplicate awards of equal time will be made.
And remember, there's nothing to buy, no box tops to send in. However, we must request that you enclose a stamped, self-addressed envelope. Without that, we couldn't possibly.
And don't forget to include your zip code in that address, because zip codes speed the mail.
Right. So once again, the complete address to put on that self-addressed envelope is your name, your street number, the city where you live, and most important, your zip code.
In closing, we wish to state that the preceding editorial has been presented under the auspices of the Bob and Ray Public Affairs Department. Printed copies of this editorial are not available at any price, so please refrain from sending cash, check, or money order.
And don't call collect either. Just enclose your stamped, self-addressed envelope and let it go at that. Thank you.
You've been listening to another in a continuing series of Bob and Ray editorials. Portions of this program may have been on tape and might conceivably have been recorded earlier for broadcast in this time period. And hi, this is Sergeant Ben Royster and your Army Amateur Hour, coming to you from the good-looking grounds of the Fort Swanson Marine Base. And in keeping with the Marine tradition, I think our first amateur is a Marine. Step up and give us your name and rank, please.
Lieutenant Junior Grade Warren Dudley, U.S. Navy.
Well, welcome, Lieutenant. You're not retired, are you?
No, nothing like that. I've just been in a year or so.
Well, you'll find it's marvelous, Lieutenant. Now, what's the talent that you're going to bring to our microphones?
Well, I do a Scottish sword dance, Sergeant. I place a couple of swords on the ground and I dance around them.
Well, we've never had anything like that before, I don't think.
Does that mean you don't want me to do it?
No, go right ahead. It's your neck or feet. At any rate, Lieutenant Warren Grade in his version of a Scottish sword dance. Very good. Very good, Warren. And that should certainly make you eligible for the Drill Talent Award semifinals to be held in Staten Island next March.
Oh, you're very kind, Sergeant.
You can leave now, Lieutenant, and go around the bandstand. I don't want you to track up the stage. And as I look at my card, I see our next contestant is a lovely miss from the Waves, Lieutenant Marjorie Avalier. Or is that Avalier?
Yes.
Lieutenant? It is.
The last contestant was a lieutenant, too. Maybe this is my lucky day.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it was a coincidence and all like that. I mean, he's a lieutenant and so am I. So maybe this is my lucky day.
From what I've heard so far, Marjorie, you'll need all the lucky days you can get. But no offense meant.
Well, I'm not thin-skinned anyhow. I take most things with a grain of salt.
Well, you certainly sound self-reliant. Where are you stationed?
I'm a pre-sea office attendant attached to Ronkomapak. That's Southern Naval District, Pacific Fleet Temporary Headquarters of the Vice Admiral, San Diego, California.
Thank you for the information, Marjorie. And what talent did you bring with you today?
Well, I imitate a radio alarm clock starting up in the morning. About the only thing I can imitate with my own voice is the alarm clock, so I brought one with me. Is that all right?
Sure it is, Lieutenant. Can't expect too much of you anyway. So here she is, Lieutenant Marjorie Avalier, in an imitation of a radio alarm clock starting up in the morning.
Let me set this clock.
Well, hurry up, kind of, will you, please?
And so are you. And that was Della Dozer, fine recording star. Thank you again, Della.
Marvelous. Just marvelous, Lieutenant Marjorie Avalier of our own Navy. You're not to be lightly regarded in your quest for the Drill Talent Award. And folks, be with us for our next show, to be held in the 10th Brigadier Armory near Sandifer, Utah. So long. And now, the Crutchford Braid and Tassel Company invites you to share another nostalgic interlude in the lives of the Pitmans.
The Great Depression swept across the land when I was a young boy growing up amid the prairie of Oklahoma. And in many ways, my family suffered more than most, for my father was a simple farmer. In good years, he sometimes harvested 1,000 bushels of dust from the land. But in bad years, the crop often ran to 5,000 bushels or more. Still, there were happy times as well. One day in particular stands out quite vividly in my recollection. I had just received an important letter in the mail, and as I hurried into the house to tell my parents about it, my young heart was racing.
Hey, Ma. Hey, Pa. I just received an important letter in the mail, and my young heart is racing.
Well, now you just lie down on the floor and rest for a little while, Jimmy Joe. The shock of getting that bad news will pass after your mother's made you some bitterroot tea.
Oh, this isn't bad news by a long shot, Pa. It's from that school for creative writers I saw advertised on a matchbook cover. I sent them a sample of my best childish scribbling for their free appraisal, and they say I'm so good that they're offering me a scholarship to take their home study course.
Well, I think that's wonderful, Jimmy Joe. We've always wanted you children to go on to a higher education, even beyond the 6th grade, if we could afford it.
Oh, this is a lot higher than that, Ma. My new school will mail me a diploma suitable for framing once I graduate. And the complete course of 10 lessons only costs $40.
Well, I know you've got your heart set on becoming a famous writer when you grow up, Jimmy Joe, and I sure want you to enroll in this fine school. But why do you have to pay $40 if they're giving you a free scholarship?
Oh, they explain that in the letter, Pa. The money is just to cover the school's cost of handling and mailing. Usually they charge an extra $5 for tuition, but I'm so gifted, they're not making me pay any of that.
Well, it would be a terrible shame to let an opportunity like this go by. But $40 is a lot of money to raise. We might get as much as $15 by selling the truck. But I'm afraid your grandmother would have to go back to work at the lard rendering plant to help scrape up the rest.
Well, I know you promised Grandma she could take things easier now that she's past 90. But this is a real worthy cause. Just listen to this great sample of my writing that I sent to the school, and they praise so highly. Here's how it goes. Come you back to Mandalay, where the old flotilla lay. Can't you hear their paddles clunking from Rangoon to Mandalay? On the road to Mandalay.
Just hold on right there, Jimmy Joe. I'm inclined to wonder about the professors at that school, if this is the poem you sent them to win your scholarship. And I don't want to sell the truck unless I'm sure you'd be getting a first-rate education from teachers with good sense. So, why don't you just throw away that letter you got and then go off to bed, son?
Well, okay, if you're sure that's in my best interest. Good night, Pa. Good night, Ma.
Good night, Jimmy Joe. Good night, Uncle Kermit.
Good night, Roy Boy. Good night, ladies of the Rebecca Lodge.
Good night, baby Lucille. Good night, Grandpa.
Good night, Shirley Temple. Good night, Jane Withers, before she became a lady plumber.
Good night, everybody upstairs. Good night, Jimmy Joe.
Good night, Ma. Good night, Newt Rockney of Notre Dame.
And in the years ahead, I was destined never to receive a diploma suitable for framing. But among the ignorant and unschooled members of my family, I was always treated as an equal.
Good night, Buck Jones. Good night, Bobby Jones.
My brothers and sisters and I remain a closely knit group to this day, even though our old farmhouse is gone, and I've long since lost track of where everybody went.
Good night, wall sockets. Good night, ceiling fixture.
In my memory, we are still together as we were then, and neither the passing of the years nor the endless miles that separate us can ever wipe out those happy recollections of my boyhood.
This week's episode of the Pitmans has been brought to you by the Crutchford Braid and Tassel Company, maker of fine doodads to improve the looks of your shabby home. Perhaps you're dreaming at this very moment of new gold fringe to dress up your souvenir pillow from Yellowstone National Park. Why not make that dream a reality by rushing to your local dealer and shouting, Crutchford? And don't forget to join us again soon for another story of nostalgic warmth in the lives of the Pitmans.